time's valuable. And so, we just wanted to, like I said, thanks for coming out today.
Yeah. Well, then we'll get into it. Right now we want to discuss best practices to be a professional, and the key to that word is professional. Obviously, the industry kind of gets a bad rap about us real estate agents. Sometimes we can even be referred to as like used car salesmen, and we definitely don't want that reputation. Know that there's 80,000 licensed agents out there, and most of them are not necessarily great or professional. We've come in contact with quite a few over the years. And so there is a reason why we do get that reputation.
Yeah, and I would say the thing that Josh and I, talk around and talk with our team around quite a bit is we really want to raise the bar as far as, the skills put out there and put forth by your everyday, real estate professional, because we know that it really is and can be one of the most rewarding professions out there. And if you, treat it and act professionally at all times, there is so many great things. And we really, like I said, we love real estate agents. We believe that real estate as a profession is just so awesome, how you get to interact with the public and everything we get to do on a daily basis. There's tons of opportunity that is created within it. But at the same time, there can be a little bit of a lower expectation, especially for maybe people coming out of school or of different things of what I wanted to put this together and talk to you guys today.
Yeah, and by being a professional, you're, like Morgan said, you're raising the bar. And why that's so important is that obviously that's going to lead to referral business from your current clients. That's going to lead to a better reputation for yourself and how other real estate agents look at you. And if it comes down, if there's a multiple offer situation, it comes down between you and another agent, the listing agent is probably going to want to go with the one who's more professional, someone who's who's invested in raising that standard, and they know who's going to communicate effectively and whatnot. So it's really important to elevate yourself to the next level, and that's something that's really motivated us to speak on this topic today.
Yeah, and so one thing is like we said, really developing and maintaining a professional presence. It's really vital to your success as a real estate agent, and so we put together a lot of things that really expound on that and really what does that mean. And we think it all starts. It really starts with a big thing is your appearance on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. But really quick, before we go into that, let's define what we consider professional. It's someone who looks the part, someone who's competent and reliable, someone who's honest, operates their business with integrity and accepts accountability, someone who communicates effectively, and someone who has specialized knowledge. And like Morgan was getting into, let's talk about looking the part.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, so your appearance makes you only get one chance to make a first impression, right? And so when you're out there among the general public, you definitely want to look the part. You want to dress like you're ready to work, you're ready to prepare, you're prepared, you're there, and it really does have make a big impression upon that other agent that you're working with and potentially showing, and especially your client first and foremost. If you look like you've just rolled out of bed and rolled up to that showing, or just came off the tennis court or so without some foreknowledge, I mean, we get it, things happen, but every day to day, you do want to step it up a notch and look like you're there to do business.
Yeah, well, I mean, just by getting out of bed, showering, and getting dressed up, we're always wearing button-down collared shirts and slacks and nice shoes. It sets your mindset for the day, number one. Naturally, you're going to operate at a much higher level. But number two, if you're coming in contact with not only your clients, but other real estate agents, you're going to be making a first impression there. And do you want them to have the impression that you're kind of a slacker, maybe once again, you're not dressed the part, or that you are, a professional? We've all met with other agents who are even dressed in suits sometimes and ties. And like, that is a very nice agent to come in contact with.
Yeah, we joke sometimes, like if you were to walk into your attorney's office and you're meeting with them for the first time, and they come rolling, out of their office and they're wearing flip-flop shorts and a ratty t-shirt, you're probably going to say, what am I doing here? This guy clearly is not, ready to represent me well. And so you've got to kind of keep that in mind. Are you looking the part that your clients expect out of your representation? Does your look equal, what kind of representation you're going to be delivering?
Yeah, I mean, I even have a story of where I met one of the another top agent in the Valley to show one of his listings, and he literally showed up in shorts, flip flops, kind of a ratty T-shirt, and my clients literally commented, "Hey, thanks so much for dressing up for us." And they were kind of offended by his appearance. It was a nice home, multi-million-dollar property, but obviously he's setting a really bad impression for maybe how that transaction would go. If we were to offer on that property, is he kind of going to be lackadaisical throughout the rest of the transaction? Is he going to communicate well? How is he going to handle it like a professional? Yeah. Definitely dressing the part is key.
Yeah, a few of these other things too. I mean, some of these things might be like, oh, everybody knows that, but it's still a simple reminder. Like one of them, when you're dealing with face-to-face meetings with your clients, make good eye contact, be engaged in the conversation, have great body language, be enthusiastic to be there, talking with them. And enthusiasm doesn't mean you're jumping all over the place. It's just that you're engaged, you're present, you're interested in what they have to say.
Yeah, and even when it comes down to social media too, that can have an effect on how people perceive you and your profession. Depending on what kind of content you're putting out there, that can either elevate you and show that you are, a professional, and that you act with integrity, and that you're, involved in nice organizations, whatever else, or that maybe, going the opposite, that you're, maybe you're drunk all the time. You're, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to put some good social media out there, but just know who's seeing that content. And, if a buyer's, going to potentially work with you, they may look up your social media and see what kind of content you have on there. So definitely how you're perceived in the social media world is going to play in what happens from there.
Everybody wants you to be relatable and everything. And so within your social media, of course, you're going to be human, you're going to be natural, but to a point. You got to remember, anything that goes on the internet really is forever. And so, you've got to look at that and say, someone who doesn't know me, if they were only to see this social media account, is this the right impression I want to give them?
Yeah. And so next on the list is part-time agent versus full-time agent. There's a lot of part-time agents. Once again, 80,000 licensed agents, probably the majority of them are part-time. The average agent only sells 1 or 2 houses a year. And so, this is something that we've run into quite a bit over the years, is agents that only do a deal or two. And once again, maybe they're kind of pulling down the entire industry because they're not acting in a professional manner. Morgan had a really good point earlier today when we were talking about this, that if you're going to be part-time, that's fine. Just be 100% on, be 100% professional when you are part-time.
Yeah, when you're out, I mean, it's okay. Say there's plenty of part-time agents that are really good, but you know what? When they're doing a transaction, when they're in the middle of it, they're full-time for that transaction. They're full-time for that client. Means, you can reach them at all times during the day. They return calls and emails promptly. Being a part-time agent doesn't mean that you can only work from 5 to 6 p.m. at night and that's it. The rest of the time your phone's going to be shut off. You're going to really struggle in the industry if that's how you approach it. When you're actually in the middle of a deal, you've got to be present. You've got to be taking these things into account. You got to be reachable.
Yeah, if you have a full-time job and you're working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, then it's only fair that you let your clients know, whether it's your friends, your family, whoever, know that you are, that you have a full-time job, you are working 9 to 5, and so you're setting that expectation. Because if they're reaching out to you to go look at properties at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, and you're not available, obviously that's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth. That's not very professional. You're going to be scrambling to try and show them properties like later on in the afternoon, which is fine. Once again, you just need to set that expectation as a professional, but it can be challenging. And I would say that if you do have another full-time job and you can't take care of those clients, my recommendation would be to refer them off to somebody else that can, so that they're in someone's, great hands and they're going to take care of them. And at least you're making 25% of the transaction.
Yeah. And another thing is, as far as, being best practices, Josh and I really stress, and that is you've got to be educated. You've got to continuously work on your education and work on staying top of your craft. This isn't a profession where you can learn it once and that's it. You've ridden the bike and you'll know it for the rest of your life. There are new things coming out each and every year that you've got to stay up to date on, new standards of business and everything else. So we really stress that education process.
Yeah, I mean, you've always got to be learning. So, I mean, you should know the documents better than anyone else knows. I mean, if someone's going to pay you tens of thousands of dollars, or if you want to make $100,000 this year, you better know those documents inside and out better than anybody else, because once again, you are the professional. You are the one who's handling the transaction, and you're the one protecting your client. And so you should know the documents, you should know the areas, you should know the streets and the different subdivisions. Make yourself an expert. If someone's interested in, let's say, Silverleaf, you better know anything and everything about Silverleaf, how much the HOA dues are, what that includes. Go the extra mile and educate yourself around that community or around that area so that you can, best advise your client.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of rushed over this, but there's a lot of people that come out of real estate school to get their license. They kind of have the understanding that maybe this is a super easy, it's an easy gig, right? I just show up and I open some doors, I help people buy a house, and voila, I make 10,000. But the reality is, no, you are 100% expected to know those contracts inside and out, know the difference between an appraisal shortfall and waiving the appraisal. You're expected to know these different things and so you can represent them in the best way possible. And the only way to do that is to continuously educate yourself and to put in the work, put in the studying, put in the work. We all know that the things they teach in real estate school, most of them do not apply to the day-to-day business.
Yeah, and I mean, we really preach to our team members a lot about education. Once again, not just real estate education, but also life education. So that we always recommend books and podcasts and different audio books to listen to and YouTube videos to watch, because being able to educate yourself in life and where everyone's, where you should be growing and staying inspired and staying on top of your game. It's just so important. I mean, every single day, everyone should be spending about 15 minutes a day learning something new, or at least digging deeper into some sort of subject out there, which over an entire year, that's going to lead to over 100 hours of education if you just do 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, it's really powerful and something everyone should look at. Like we always say, if you want to make more money, you've got to become more valuable. And one of the ways you become more valuable is you become more educated in your craft. So.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, if you think about it, like someone who has years and years and years of experience and knowledge and education over someone who's brand new, who's going to be more valuable? So in order to get, get that experience, get that knowledge, is just by studying, educating, reading, listening, learning.
Yeah, even if you are newer, you can take leaps and bounds that another agent is going to beat you because they have transactional experience, but maybe they've gotten a little lazy on keeping up to date with the documents and the latest changes and that. But you really have the opportunity there to work on that part of your education on those documents too.
Yeah. And we would say probably the number one thing in being a professional is communication. Communication is key. It's the number one complaint about the real estate industry, is that agents don't communicate enough. And I mean, we see it every day, throughout our transactions where we're trying to get a hold of an agent, they're not answering their phone, they're not responding to text messages, they're not responding to emails, they're not responding to voicemails or anything like that. Or if they do, maybe it's a day or two later. Just communication is key.
Yeah, so much of what we're talking about here in best practices, so many of them can be tracked back or directly relate to communication in the style with which you communicate. Even going back to the way you dress, that is communication in and of itself, because you're communicating how much you take your job seriously. And so we're going to hit a number of little points, but communication is the number one thing if you take anything from this webinar, communicate more effectively and in better ways.
Yeah, it's better to over communicate than to under communicate. We've never lost a client because we've over communicated to a client.
Yeah, what goes along with that too, respond quickly. In today's day and age, you're expected to respond in a pretty timely manner, be it text, email, or phone call. Certainly to phone calls, you are expected to get back, especially if it's your client, really quickly.
Yeah, and if it's a newer client and you're not responding quickly, most likely after maybe a couple hours, or certainly if they called you in the beginning of the day and you didn't call them back until the end of the day, maybe they've already moved on. Maybe they've already reached out to another agent that is going to return their phone calls promptly, or started, at least investigating other agents out there. But when it comes to your clients, obviously you want to be on top of it, but with other agents, same thing, title companies, lenders, you want to be communicating with all these people in a timely manner. Obviously, time is of the essence, especially once you go under contract.
Yeah, certainly. And right along with that, responding quickly, well, beyond that, anticipate your client's needs and try to, rather than just responding to all your clients' needs, try to anticipate their needs and answer questions before they even come up. That's another key tip with communicating. You should be thinking 2-3 steps ahead. You should know what's coming next. You should know where the transaction's going, and then communicate that to your client.
Yeah, and the reason why is because it shows that you care. If you're always thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead and you're on top of it, it shows your client and it shows everybody else out there that you're working with that you actually care about them, you care about the transaction, you care about helping them and helping them achieve their goals. And it's important.
Yeah, and I mean this goes right along with it too, and it's another one of our points. But you want to have conversations with your client to where you lay out the timeline of what's going to happen, in the immediate future, what's going to happen down the road, and then how, because you've been here before, what it looks like. They maybe do or maybe don't. Maybe they haven't bought a house in 10 years. They don't always remember. And so one thing that we believe is a best practice is to continuously update your clients with, hey, here's where we are on our road. Paint the picture for them, paint that roadmap for them. We're going to make the offer. It's going to get responded. They have this much time. Go back and forth and really make sure they fully understand that where the process and where it's headed. It really helps a lot. It helps ease their uncomfortability and their fears when you're keeping them way ahead of the game and they can see what's coming at them down the road.
Yeah, you're basically setting the expectations of how that transaction is going to go and how the relationship is between the two of you. A lot of times I like to have conversations with my clients that, around, hey, look, I might be in a meeting, I might be showing other properties. Please know if you call me and you leave a message, or if you shoot me a text message, I will get back to you. It might be a few hours until I do, but you can rest assured that I will 100% get back to you within a few hours. But I do have other clients. I am out showing properties. I am in other meetings, but I will certainly get back to you in a timely manner.
Yeah, there's a happy medium with all things, but like I said, when you set the expectation, when you lay out that roadmap, it makes things go a lot smoother.
And one other thing with the setting expectations, I like the idea of having weekly meetings with your clients, whether it's a buyer or a seller. I think every single one of your clients should get a call at least once a week, a scheduled call at least once a week, where you can just check in with them and say, hey, how's everything going? Do you have any questions for me? Is there anything I can do for you at this time? Once again, I think it makes people feel special, feel important, makes them feel like you care. And so I think, it's one thing that we do with all of our clients, with all of our sellers, is we call them every single Wednesday and we tell them, hey, look, on Wednesday, expect a call from us. We're going to call you. We're going to give you all the feedback from the weekend. We're going to let you know about all the offers that we have, where we're at, whatever. Or even if we're under contract, hey, we're going to check in with you every Wednesday and we're going to let you know what's going on with the transaction, where we're at, what things have come up. Obviously, we're usually communicating a lot more during those times, but it's still nice to have a scheduled call once a week.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And when you are having those conversations with your clients, key thing to being a professional is you want to actively listen to what they're saying, actively listen to, their wants, their needs, the things that they're telling you. If you need to write it down, great, write it down. Whatever it takes to where when they're having that conversation, they know that you have heard them. Especially if you're having a buyer consultation too, right? And they're giving you tidbits about the homes they want to see and like and everything. You need to know those things in and out. And so you're not putting properties in front of them that just do not work for them because they've already told you a couple of times that this wasn't something they wanted to see. But this comes up in all times. So really actively listening to your clients, to other people in the industry, so that you can adequately convey that or work with them is really helpful.
Yeah, you need to understand their goals, their needs, their wants. You got to write it all down. Have a notepad in front of you so that they can see that you're right. Write big if you need to, so that they can see that you care, that you're listening, that you're taking notes. And you want to make sure that you're doing this because you want to provide great service. And not only are you actively listening, but you're asking lots of questions. So if they say, hey, yeah, we want a house with 4 bedrooms. Okay, that's great. But what about a 3-bedroom plus an office? Would that work for you? You're constantly just asking questions to try and find out, what that looks like and understand all their needs and all their wants so that you can help them as a professional.
Yeah. And this one kind of goes, it should go without saying, but it still has to be said, is you've got to follow through on anything you say you're going to do. When you say, hey, I'm going to do this, I got it, I heard it, you've got to follow through on that. We all get busy. We're all juggling multiple clients at all times. But when we tell a client that we're going to do something, you're doing it.
Yeah, you got it. That's really important because obviously the idea is that if you don't follow through,
they lose trust.
They lose trust. You lose credibility, and good luck trying to gain that back throughout the transaction. So if you say that you're going to do something, if you say, hey, yeah, I'm going to follow up with this agent on this, or I'll find out more about, why they're asking for credit, yada, yada. And if you don't do that and they call you and say, hey, did you get that information? You're like, oh, not yet. I haven't touched base with the agent. Once again, you're losing the credibility of that client.
Yeah, a little more time goes by. So that's really a big one there too. Several of the other things we have too, one of the things is the best practice we like to do too. We like to send over copies of the documents before we ever ask our clients to sign them.
Yeah. Send over the buyer advisory, send over a copy of the purchase contract. If you're listing the property, send over a blank copy of the agreement ahead of time. You want to give them all the information ahead of time so that they have plenty of time to read over everything and ask questions. And you can actually, and then we like to, after they've had 24 hours or so to read everything over, call them up and say, hey, you know what, we'd love to go over this document, with you line by line or section by section, just to make sure that you fully understand it. Once again, you're a professional, no different than like a lawyer would go over a document with you. You want to go over these documents with your clients, not just assume that because they've done one deal 10 years ago, that they know everything that's in the purchase agreement.
Yeah, and this especially comes true when you are making an offer or receiving an offer on behalf of the seller. You've got to know that you're going to send that over to them. They're going to look it over, but you have to know it better than they do. You have to read it line by line and know everything that's in that offer. You can't just pass the buck to the seller and say, oh, well, I sent it to the seller. Whether they read it or not, I don't know. No, it's your responsibility to act in their best interest, which means you're going to read it closer than you'd even read your own contract.
And remember, you're presenting the offer. That doesn't mean you just email it over and then you're like, I presented it. No, sure, that might be the technical word form of it, but you are presenting the offer. So you need to call your client after you send it over and say, hey, you know what? I want to go over all the major bullet points of this offer. I want to let you know what's included, what the financing is, when the close of escrow is, how long we have to respond to this offer. Did they include the washer and dryer and the refrigerator? Did they include a home warranty? And go over every single major section of this. I know when we were, young professionals, newer in the business and whatnot, this is maybe an area where either we missed it or sometimes maybe took it for granted that someone knew, had read over everything and they understood it. And then they're like, oh, I didn't realize that they were asking for a home warranty. I didn't realize that, we're at the end of the end of the transaction, and title sends over the closing disclosure, and they're like, oh, I didn't realize there was a home warranty in there.
I didn't realize they included my washer and dryer.
Yeah, I didn't exactly. And now we're buying a washer and dryer because, we as professionals didn't necessarily go over with them line by line what was included in that offer.
Yeah, you definitely want to spend that time. When it comes to making that offer, let's say you're representing the buyer and you're writing the contract, okay? The same thing. You've got to write the offer, but send it over to the client, but then call them up and walk them through what the offer looks like, and then ask for their signatures. It's one thing that a lot of people do is sometimes you'll talk to people out there that say, oh, I never even saw the offer until they sent it to me to sign it. It really should go out to them first. They should have a little time to look at it, digest it. You have a conversation, and then they sign it.
Yeah, and I was going to say two other little tips that we like to add on here. Number one, if you're sending an email to any party that is part of a transaction, you need to include the property address in the subject line. Yeah. If you send over an email with no subject whatsoever,
hello,
yeah, or nothing, random. It's blank, anything, like anything that if the address is not in there, it makes you look like you're not a professional. Number one, we don't take you seriously. We just assume that you were in a rush or whatever the situation may be. But you need to include the subject line on there.
You've got to remember too, when you're out there as an agent, maybe you're offering on a property, right? And you sent your best. You spent all this time working up the offer, and all your email says is offer in that subject line. It comes over to listing agents like Josh and I have. We may have a dozen or 24 listings, and it can get easily lost in the shuffle. It definitely does not look as professional. It's very simple to include the property. It doesn't have to be filled out, Scottsdale, Arizona, 85260, the whole, but at least the street number, name, and that, so that you can get it in there, and then include offer so that it can be easily recognizable. And this should go out. This should be a standard of practice throughout your email. I think people get really lazy on emails, and believe it or not, it shows.
Yep. And number two, when you send over an offer or any document, whether it's to a client or to another listing agent or even to title, you should ask for a receipt. Hey, can you, just confirm receipt, confirm that you received this. And we also like to call or text the other party and just say, hey, you know what? I just sent you over an offer. Just want to make sure that you received it. Can you please just shoot me a text back and let me know that you received it? Or can you please call me back and let me know that you have it? Last thing you want to do is send over an offer, and it ends up in their junk or spam box. They don't see it. You assume that they have it. You assume that they presented it. And then you call back the next day and find out that they accepted another offer that was probably lower because they never saw your offer.
Yeah. And on the flip side to that too, when you are receiving offers or receiving everything, make sure you're the one confirming receipt. You're taking the time to say, yep, I got it. That's the simple, got your offer, maybe ask questions, whatever you need to do. But it goes both ways. You've got to be asking for it, but you on the flip side have also need to make sure you're sending out that, letting them know that you did receive it.
And one last little thing on this, number three, in your signature block, not only do you have your full name, but you should have your phone number and you should have your email address in there. I know it's going to be in your email too, but those three things should be in there. Why? Because it's easy to trace the email, number one. Number two, if we're looking at it on a phone and we want to call you really quick, if you don't have your phone number on there, then we got to try and look you up or try and track you down or try and go to past emails where maybe you did include your phone number so that we can try and call you. But you need to include your phone number. You will never believe how many agents do not include their phone number in written form in their signature block.
Correct. And not only that, we all use email in a bunch of different platforms, right? You'll have agents that will send you an email from their phone and there's no contact info or anything at the bottom, right? And you don't ever want to make it difficult for your clients to get a hold of you or your potential clients. In this case, it's other agents. And it's like, oh, it's no big deal. They maybe already have my number in the contract or something like that. But no, that's a lazy way of thinking. Take the time to put in a signature to where people have your contact info. If it's going to other agents, you can bet it's going to clients. and maybe they're shuffling for your phone number and then they just say, oh, forget it. I'll call someone else.
Yeah. or maybe they want to refer you out and they go and they're like, shoot, like
I can't find a signature block for them. So forget it. Just find your own agent.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, it's little things. These are little things, but if you're a professional, you should have your phone number and email and your name. And if you're sending it from your phone, you're sending it from your tablet or your computer, it's consistent.
Yeah.
And it's going out.
And you'd think this would be obvious, and you'd think that, okay, well, maybe only new agents do this. No, we've seen it from agents who have been in the business for over 20 years, and they still do this, and it blows our mind. So we wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, and while we're on emails real quick, I'll just add another little thing.
Off the cuff. Here we go.
Yeah, but so you got to hit return once in a while. Don't send an email that's just like a paragraph and a bunch of different subjects. It's just sentences, like one long run-on sentence. Try to break it up a little bit. Maybe you're talking about the bins are up here and then, hit return, then you break into like the closing, but you get those emails and it's just one consistent run-on paragraph. You can just tell that they put little to no care into that.
Yeah, check your grammar too. Whether you're texting or sending an email, make sure you're checking your grammar, your spelling, everything else. Obviously, we have the luxury that a lot of times it's, spell check, but I can't tell you how many times I've dropped the ball on this where I've sent a voice text message and it's changed it into something else that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it's always going to happen. It's going to happen. You just don't want to be known as consistently that person that sends out almost illegible texts and emails.
Garbled messages. Yeah, cryptic.
Yeah.
Totally cryptic. Just check your stuff. Make sure that, before you hit send, like I said, I'm guilty of it too. I need to slow down before I send things out.
Okay, we're going one more point.
All right, one more off the cuff. Here we go.
And this should go without saying too, but you've got to be really careful when you reply all or you're forwarding emails. Okay. Yes. You're representing your client, and part of representing them is to keeping their business confidential. And when you go forwarding, sometimes there's their inner workings in those emails down the chain that you have now just forwarded off. And maybe it's innocent stuff. You're still sending over contact info that might not necessarily be and end up in the right hands. So be careful of what you're forwarding or what you're replying all to. You got to pay attention to what's coming in and out of your inbox. So
that's good.
That was it.
Yeah. Now here's a big one when it comes to communication. When shit hits the fan, part of my language, do not go dark. That's actually the way to blow up a deal, to have another agent get upset with you or your client get upset with you. Don't go dark. Once again, this happens so often. You would think, okay, maybe this is just newer agents or whatever.
Run and hide.
No, true professionals don't go dark when things go crazy.
No, maybe the mistake is yours. So what? If that's the case, own up to it. You cannot turn your phone off and just say, I'm gonna, run away from this. You have to face the music.
Yeah, lenders tend to do this. You lenders out there, you guys tend to go dark when things go wrong. But on our side, when things happen, the best thing to do is to try and quickly find a couple options. How can we solve this problem? And try to run down all the options you possibly can, and then get back to your client right away. Even if you don't have options, hey, you know what? This just happened. I want to let you know. I'm looking into it. I'm trying to find options.
I'm going to find some options and solutions. I'll get back to you.
Correct.
Formulate a plan.
Yeah, I'll call you later on today. And when you say I'm going to call you back, if you don't call them back, they're going to be upset. So you gotta own up to it.
Guys, we're in the solution business. Okay, you got to understand, like, we are here to provide options, to provide solutions, and to help navigate those bumps when things go awry.
And they do.
Yeah, and they do all the time. Everyone has a deal to where it's like, hey, my stuff's in the moving truck. We're currently chugging along. Loan docs aren't a title. And so I don't know where that moving truck's going to land because right now we don't have a house for you. So you just don't know. Things are going to happen. They're going to come up. The number one thing is you have to stay present, and you have to, put your boots on and get ready to fight for your client and help navigate those waters and not go dark and just be, nothing's gonna ruin your relationship faster than when times get tough and you get out the door. That's when you really got to get to work.
Yeah, it might be a scary conversation to have. You might be very nervous about having this conversation with your client or with the other agent. That's okay. We've all been there. We totally get it, but you have to have it. And don't sugarcoat it or make it seem better than it really is. Just lay it all out there.
Yep.
You know what? And you know what? People respect honesty, and that's actually the next thing on our list. You want to operate with integrity and be honest the entire time. And this is a perfect example of when things go awry, you just need to be honest and just say.
And maybe it's easy to to not, give them all the details and everything, but you really, it's at those times, especially when you have to, really find that integrity that we all know you have, and be honest, but help present solutions at the same time. Understand that too. Nothing is the end of the world, and nothing is without a way out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You have to just overly communicate to your clients in an honest form, and also other agents out there. And once again, title, lenders, you name it. Operate with integrity. Once again, the definition of integrity is pretending like that you're operating in such a fashion that even if no one is around, you're still operating at a high level.
yeah, and going back to this, as a newer agent and stuff goes kind of wrong, you probably don't have all the answers. You don't know how to get out of some of these situations. And that is where it's helpful. You always want to have someone around that has a little more experience than you do, whether it's the broker or someone else, but you need to be able to bounce some ideas off them, figure out a way through, because stuff is going to come up. Transactions are going to go off the tracks and sideways due to none of your own causes. Stuff just happens in this business, and you've got to be prepared to deal with it and deal with it head on.
And once again, if it is your fault, you need to take 100% accountability, own up to it, say, hey, you know what, I'm really sorry. I dropped the ball here. If you truly did, just so that they know, and people respect that. People understand that we're not perfect. Humans aren't perfect. We're all going to make mistakes, but you got to own up to it. Stop pointing the fingers at everybody else and blaming everyone else for your own mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. So like we said, we were over on honesty.
I think that basically covers it.
Well, yeah.
To sum it all up, the reason why it's so important to be a professional and not just an average real estate agent is that we have so much competition out there, even more today than we ever have. We have all the iBuyers, we have Open Door, we have Redfin, we have Zillow agents or whatever else. We have so many companies that are trying to systematize the process and just kind of dumb it down. And you, at this point in time, you need to step it up. You need to take your business to the next level and be a professional. People are going to always want to work with professionals and not just some agent who's making $40,000 a year as an employee of some company and doesn't operate with the same standards and integrity that we all hope to do and do.
Yeah, it's 100% correct. There is a lot of competition, and there are a lot of tech companies and everything else that want your job. They want your commission check. But what they cannot deliver is they cannot deliver that personal communication. They also cannot deliver, that person that is looking out for them in their best interest at all time and really helping them through the transaction. They can say it's going to be easier and everything else, but we all know that that the client is the one that loses in the end of most of those transactions. The way you can help stop that is by being, by elevating yourself and always keeping in mind all the little things that we've talked about today, and even more things, just to where you are working at your best capability to be a better professional.
Yeah, this is a very emotional process, buying a house, and all these companies are trying to take the emotions out of it and make it just almost like you're going to be going out and buying a car, you're going to go out and buy a computer, whatever, something that maybe doesn't require a lot of emotions, but there's a very emotional process. Most people are moving their families into these homes, or maybe it's a home that they've lived in for a long time and have a lot of memories there, and they're selling it now. So there's a lot of emotions that are around this, and they want to work with someone who cares, someone who's going to be empathetic to their situation, is going to understand what they need, understand what they're going through. Redfin agents or other agents that are just, once again, an employee, it can be very challenging for them to even come close to that same level of caring and empathy and integrity that we can provide to our clients.
Yeah. Take that fiduciary responsibility to heart, in a sense. You're looking out for your client's best interests at all times. And that means putting in the work before you ever get that client, to where you are capable, not just capable, but you're qualified, that you are the best person for that job, for that client, because you put in the work beforehand. You didn't just start when you got the client. You did the work behind the scenes. You made sure you were staying up to date. The contract inside out. Everything else, and then you're putting that into practice with that client. But that really is the part of the industry that cannot be replaced.
And if you are working with your friends and family, you owe them an even higher level, because you want to deliver at such a level that they're not disappointed that they worked with you, that they don't ever regret, oh, I should have never worked with John because, he just didn't give me the time of day, or, every time I called him, it took him 12 hours to call me back, and you don't want to take that friendship or that relationship for granted. You want to, once again, just step it up, because they're going to be the ones who are going to be your biggest advocates. They're going to refer, business for life back to you. And so you really want to take care of those friends and family. And once again, if you're working a full-time job and a friend or a family member comes to you and asks you to represent them, if you don't feel like you can do it better than anyone else out there, then I'd probably refer that client on.
Yeah. There's so we hope you liked some of the things that we talked to today. I know that we've had some questions kind of come in and that. So Dana, did you have I don't know if we were compiling some of those. Any questions for us?
I don't have any at the moment in the chat box. I guess one question that I would have, and I'm not out in the field at all, but maybe helpful, is, let's say somebody is going out and needing to have information on a listing presentation in any given part of the valley, and they have no knowledge or expertise in a given area, and they're doing a listing presentation in the morning. What would be the things to do right away, just baptism by fire of getting, so familiar they could go in and do a great listing presentation on an area they're totally unfamiliar with?
Yeah. Well, if it were me, I probably wouldn't schedule that listing appointment for the very next morning. Number one, I'd want to give myself a little time to, once again, go in and put my best foot forward and be, once again, a professional. I want to know all the comps. I want to know the area. I want to be able to drive the area. Spend at least a half an hour driving around and looking at, okay, that house just sold last month and here it is. Okay, I know that. I want to know the area, the comps, even just shopping centers that are in the
local
area.
hotspots.
Yeah, local hotspots. I want to familiarize myself as much as I possibly can. And I don't think you might not leave yourself enough time if it's 10 o'clock at night or whatever, 9 o'clock at night, and they say, hey, can you meet me in the morning? I probably would say, hey, you know what? I'd love to meet you in the morning, but can we meet in the afternoon, or can we meet in the following day or whatever? Yeah. Push it back a little bit to try and give yourself some time, but then just research the heck out of it.
Yep, definitely. I mean, it's a big valley, and I think in reality, no one can be expected to know every inch in every neighborhood throughout the entire valley, and that's especially when you are listing properties. You do specialize, but when it comes up, like Josh said, you want to make yourself an expert of that neighborhood, that area, barriers to get through, and things that make people tick, some of the employment centers. There's all kinds of things. So number one, though, you really want to know your systems, know your processes, and then be able to seamlessly put that listing right in there. So to where the neighborhoods don't matter as much, because you have a systematic process for getting homes marketed and sold effectively.
But this is the perfect point or perfect place to send them over the listing agreement, a blank copy, send them all the supporting documents over so that they can review. I wouldn't send them the purchase contract, because that you can send that to them later, but I'd send over all the basic docs that they need in order to get that listing so that they can review that. I'd also send them over all the comps that I pulled over so that they can review those comps, because I don't want to walk into the presentation and then show them the comps for the first time. I don't want to walk into the presentation and show them the listing agreement for the first time, because most people are going to want some time to kind of read through it and understand it. And sure, could you read through it with them right then and there? You could, but most people are going to still want some time to digest it. And maybe they want to show it to their lawyer. Maybe they want to, maybe they want to come up with a list of questions. Who knows?
Yep.
But send that information over, then go and drive the area, print out all the comps, go through line by line, know the comps better than anyone else, so that when you get into that meeting, you can say, hey, I know 123 Main Street just sold last month at this price, but it didn't have a pool but it did have an extra bedroom, and you can really speak on a very high level about every single comp that you're showing them.
Yeah.
Perfect. Does anybody else have any questions for either of the guys today, just before we wrap up our call? I know, Michelle, you had a comment in there about S21 Ultra doesn't allow for a signature block. I think there are definitely ways around it from having just a signature block. But
she's saying for some of your, on like the phone, on the emails and stuff.
The phone.
Yeah,
I would
if that's
switch
the
to
case,
iPhone.
or if you can't have a signature block, the way you do that is you just have your name, your phone number, and your email typed out, save it to your clipboard, and then you just can hold and paste that in every time, so you don't have to type all that stuff out every time. It's pretty quick and easy, but that would be a workaround.
Yep.
Anyone else? You can unmute yourself and speak freely if you have any other questions.
Anybody else who wants to jump in, please feel
We do
free
have
to.
a nice tip, just another off the cuff is, for, business cards they're still a thing, but they're more dated. What Josh and I believe in is best practices now is create yourself as a contact in your phone, where you've filled out all of the fields. You've got your email, your office address, everything you'd want them to know, upload the picture and everything else, and then save yourself as a contact. That way, when you share your contact information with someone else, it's already right there. All they have to do is click on it and save it, and they have all your information saved to their phone with a professional picture of you and everything else.
I have a question about best practices. So I have a listing that's getting like a lot of attention, and people are like, please keep me updated. Like what I need to do for my buyer, like multiple phone calls, like, if I need to go 5,000 over, please just let me know. Don't keep me hanging. I've been trying to get this buyer. Like I've had like desperation calls. How do you handle those?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it definitely depends on the listing. And that's the thing too. I would, in some ways, you're setting expectations with clients. I would set expectations with those agents, and you've got to let them know, to a certain extent, hey, I've received a ton of calls on this. I'm not going to be able probably to call every agent back and keep them updated with every blow by blow. That being said, make sure you send me an email if they haven't offered or anything yet. You're going to want to kind of compile that. You can send out a mass email with updates that BCC, where you blind carbon copied the other agents in the transaction to kind of keep them up to date. So there are multiple ways, but you also really want to talk to your seller and explain ways to handle a multiple offer situation with them, and get their input. Is if they want you to have it an open auction process, are you naming the price, you naming your best price with each and everybody? If that's the case, tell the agents that's going to happen. Or you're going to do more of a blind auction, to where you're not letting anybody know, how high the offers have gotten. You're just telling them all to submit, and then you multiple counter.
Yeah, and remember, we didn't talk about this today, but part of being a professional is keeping your emotions out of the transaction. So if someone's calling you up and they're desperate and they're like
Super emotional,
and they're trying to win you over, which is great. We love that. But once again, we represent our clients and their best needs. So just because
it's not our decision.
Yeah, it's not our decision. Just because this person's desperate, that unfortunately doesn't have anything to do with us. Like, we're still trying to provide great service to our client and protect them and handle their best needs. But I would just say that if you're getting those desperation calls, just say, hey, you know what? Look, unfortunately, I'm not the decision maker on this. I'm happy to share that information with the seller, or if you want to put it in an email, I'll forward over your email, to the seller, and they can make a decision from there. But I think when we have a listing. It sounds like, Heather, that is this a listing that's coming to the market or that just hit the
No,
market?
it just hit the market today.
It just hit the market today.
Yeah,
Okay,
someone
so,
even said that they're like best friends with
Congratulations.
Levi's, trying to smooth me over.
maybe they are.
Congratulations, yeah.
I would say, hey, you know what? Once again, that's great. Get your offer in. Have your client put their best foot forward. If they're worried, you know, because do I need a 5,000 over or whatever? I would say, hey, do an escalation clause. You know what? I can't tell you that 5,000 over is going to get it done. Do an escalation clause. Have your client put their best foot forward. Make the terms as attractive as they possibly can, and send it over. I'll present it. And if you want to include something in that email that you want me to share with the seller, I'm happy to do so as well. But remember,
Perfect.
I'm not the decision maker, but I will respond to everyone and in a professional manner once my client's made a decision.
Perfect. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, we know multiple offers, you know, are tough, both from the buyer and the seller standpoint. Last year, we did a webinar all about multiple offers and what we think the best practices are in handling those, both from a buyer and a seller perspective. So we'll probably have to do another one of those coming up soon.
Yeah.
And something
anyone
else, something else I was just going to mention, unless anybody else has a question, is just to, the guys just put together a market update. So go onto our YouTube. We ran out of time to do that today. But if you are interested in checking that out and just wanting a current market update, they just filmed one and it's available on our YouTube channel, mojoscottsdale.com, or just Mojo Scottsdale. So go onto the YouTube there, and there's a lot of great info, market and otherwise.
Yeah. And if you guys like this webinar, please join us for other ones in the future. We coach around subjects every single month, but we only do these, you know, maybe once a quarter. And so, you know, we enjoy it. We're passionate about it. We obviously love what we do. And so, or if you think of a question after this, you know, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're an open book. We're happy to share anything. So.
And I'm putting my email in the chat box. So if anybody does have further questions or wants any information, you can always reach out to me on my email.
Sounds great.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, guys, and get out there, crush it, and most importantly, be professional.
Yep. Take care.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Tanya. Thank you.